30-year titan in business with having multiple businesses that generate multiplied millions of dollars.
And if that plan happens to be to build $1 million company, which I can help you do.
But he's humble. He's a man of God. He's a family man.
The world's news organizations are built on everything but positivity.
He is an influential entrepreneur and business speaker for over 30 years.
I've got to forecast. I've got to pronounce. I've got to project. I've got to share with you my ideas, my vision, my goals for not only myself, but for you.
That's why he's came up with his incredible concept of taking and creating a platform for people that are wired differently.
And you got to understand that your habits of your person and your habits of your business and your habits of your spirituality have to lead to the North Star of who you are. We need to figure out who we want to be in life.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? How is the broadcast look? I'm back here in Florida, Bradenton, Florida. I'm in a studio here in Florida, and I just can't tell you what a relief it is to be here. I've literally got my cameras ready. I got my green screen set up so we could try the new stadium or studio look, and I'm super, super, super excited on how everything's shaking out right now. How's the stream look, everybody? Looking good? Debbie says, hump day, baby. Yeah, Bradenton, the feed is great. Listen, I got to tell you, man, this last 3 weeks, I mean, it feels a little strange because I'm back in my home field. I guess I have 2 home fields, and I've been gone for 3 weeks. And it was a long 3 weeks away from my family, away from my grandchildren, away from the businesses that I have here, the rental properties, and all the employees here in Florida. And so I just kind of want everyone to understand that this is an interesting life I lead. And I reflect a lot on, like, what am I doing? What is going on here? Why is it that this is what I'm called to do? Why is it this is what's going on in my life? Why is it that things are the way they are? And I wanted to talk to you a little bit today on Wednesday about part of my calling, part of the business calling, and all the things that are going on in our lives right now. And I feel like I just got to do a check on this. Getting stronger. Thanks for being a great example. Hi, Christina Wilson. Guys, give me some. My Wi-Fi signal is looking a little sketchy over here for some reason. I have no idea. Can someone just give me because I want to dive into what's going on today, and I really want to have everyone's attention and know that things are going well. Hi, Terry. Hi, Terry. Happy Wednesday. Good. You're solid, boss. Thank you, Brandon Echo. Nice live you did yesterday. I couldn't tell you how proud I was of Brandon Echo yesterday. He was kicking it. He was kicking it, and I love the ripple message he gave. But today, this message I want to talk to you about is I remember when I was a younger man, for the first time I ever had anything stolen from me. And I want to encourage all of you. I want to encourage all of you how important it is to understand that we're all in this same boat together. I think last Tuesday or last Monday was, I didn't go live yesterday, but Monday I went live, and we had Prince on the message with us, and we are all dearly beloved. We're gathered here today to get through this thing called life. And I want to double down on that today. I want to double down on life and what we're called to do, and why even a man of Prince's stature, earthly, not earthly, whatever you want to call him, he would say, and he would actually recognize that we're all called to be here together on this earth to do this thing called life together. And so this morning, I as I'm reflecting and I'm talking to you about why we're called to grow you personally, to grow you spiritually, to grow you profitably, this is my calling. And it's no coincidence that I spend a lot of time on self-help with you all here on this channel, on these messages. But it never make the mistake of realizing that it's not just self-help, because the self-help proportion of this is moving from and through the spiritual growth that we're experiencing together as well. We can't have personal growth without spiritual growth. We can't have profitable growth without personal growth, and we can't have personal growth without spiritual growth. So we need to understand that all these things come together. And yes, we're all in this world together. We're all doing this thing called life together, but some of us are called to do things just a little differently. And I feel like I'm called to do things just a little differently. I'm wired differently. And I think those that you are following me are wired differently as well. And one of the reasons you're following me and you're carrying on and even taking some of the things that I'm sharing with you and moving them into your life spiritually, personally, and in profitably, have so much success from the people that I'm coaching profitably, spiritually, personally, all three things that we're coaching on. You can talk to them. Give me a show, give me a PM, and I'll send you a referral, or I'll turn you on to somebody that I'm coaching, and they will tell you what's happened in their life. They will tell you what's happened in their spiritual growth, and they will tell you what's happening in the bottom line of their companies. This works. But we can't lose fact of why we're here with all these people. We can't lose fact of why we're called here to be wired differently. And so this morning, I just kind of wanted to take you guys back in the Wayback Machine, or maybe some of you, it's not way back, but I'm going to take you in the Wayback Machine. I'm going to give you some examples of what I feel God's asked me to talk to you about spiritually, personally, and profitability today. And I plan on only going 20 minutes. I plan on getting this out. I plan on giving you guys the real deal right now. I remember when I was a young man, I just got married with my wife, and we were barely into maybe year two, maybe year three. And we had a house. We had our second house, and we had moved from our first house, and we had our first baby, and we moved over there. And I remember coming home one day in 1990 or something. We just bought this house. We somehow figured out how we could get a mortgage on this second house, and the mortgage came in at 12.5%. And I remember celebrating 12.5%. So you all don't think inflation and all the thing in the world is so awful. In 1990, it was like 12.5, and we did the happy dance. We had a house. We had another baby we were planning on having, and we were going to move into this house. Well, anyways, this house was a pretty cool house. It had like apple trees and a Bing cherry tree, and it was a little bit of a fixer up. It had one stall for a horse. We had one horse, and who knows the stuff we were doing. We had a big Great Dane, and we were starting life and building our way. But this house was very, very special to me because we had just bought it for to create our second child and the next piece in our early life. But I remember coming home one night with my wife and my little girl, and I walked into the house. I got out of the car, and I started to walk into the house, and both doors, the front door as we pulled in and the back door as we pulled in, was wide open. And I remember, this is strange, honey. I said, stay in the car. And I, at the point, carried a weapon. And I remember grabbing the weapon. And as I walked into the back door of the house, I realized that someone had broke into my house. I realized that the kitchen was disheveled. I had realized that the living room wasn't the same. I realized that my compound bow and arrows and weapons were compromised. It was like I couldn't believe it was happening. I was a young man. I just bought this house, and I had this child and a beautiful young wife out in the car, and it was spooky. So as I walked through the house, I looked at my wife and I said, stay in the car, lock the doors. And she locked the doors. And as I went through that house, room for room for room, making all the noise I could make, I realized that I had been robbed. I realized that they had taken our personal belongings. I cleared every room in the house. There was no risk at hand. And then we finally called the police, and we made a list of things that they took. But when we closed the doors that night, we just didn't feel so safe. There was nothing the police could do for us. They couldn't watch guard overnight. They couldn't make me feel any better that my belongings were stolen. They couldn't make me feel better that someone may not come back and do the things that you do. It's just a feeling of your treasures, your being, your person has been violated. I remember another time when I was in college that I had a great car. It was a 76 Cutlass, black Cutlass with T-tops on it. It's an amazing car. My grandma, who was in her declining years, opted to sell me that car for X amount of dollars. I don't know what it was, but I took it to college the last 2 years in college, and I remember driving it back and forth. And I parked it in front of the apartment. The Real World is where we lived. It was a house that we converted for 3 or 4 of us men to live in, and I would park it out front of that house. And I remember coming home from some evening thing or getting up in the morning or somehow. I just remember it being dark, And I went to get into the car. And as I went to get into the car, I started walking through shattered glass. And the glass was all over, and I realized that someone had broke the windows in my Cutlass Calais. And here's the thing about this Cutlass Oldsmobile Cutlass it was my ride. It was a 2-door Cutlass. It was amazing. And in the back seat, I had this extra bass woofer. This is like 1980. 86, 87, man. This was the vintage time where we had a CD player and we had extra bass woofers and passive radiators, and I had hair at that time, and I can remember the air blowing through the rear speaker so much it would blow my hair forward. It was like a massive sound system. Obviously, the envy of many young people. But as they broke into the car, they took my stereo, they took my speakers, they took all my CDs, they took everything I had. And I remembered that point as well, that I was violated. Someone had took something from me that was mine. I remember at that point feeling the very way that I'd never really wanted to feel again. Why am I feeling this way? So I want you to understand, can you remember some time that somebody has stole something from you? Can you remember a time in your life where you just realized everything was going well and you walked into something that you didn't expect and someone had violated you? They had taken something from you, or they tried to steal something from you. I remember another time in business personally that when I walked into the business one day, everyone was really quiet at 6, 7, 12 people in there, and they looked at me like in horror. Because I hadn't realized that morning that I was going to find out that some 100 of my clients have been stolen from me. 100 clients up in over the middle of the night left me to the tune of $150,000 to $200,000 a year of reoccurring revenue. It was gone. Somebody had come in the middle of the night, a salesperson that had the secret keys to these perfect little clients of ours that he had brought in, and found a way to take them overnight and place them at another vendor. $250,000 gone overnight. I felt so violated. I remember another time where in another one of my companies, I went in the next day, and one of my most revered employees, one of my most sought after, most favorite employees, who would do everything and anything for me. They would go the extra mile, a dime and time over again. And we found out that person had embezzled over $250,000. I found out by stumbling into the banking records of her own demise. I found out by concerned customers. I found out by whopper jaw things going on in the meetings. I found out the hard way that money was gone. I remember one time where I loaned a particular person, and this is going to be more than 4 times. I loaned a person as much as $200,000. I know you're saying, Todd, what's going on? Why are you so crazy? I remember loaning them $200,000 that they would gladly pay me back upon the next month's receipts. And then when I called them, because I hadn't heard from them, I got a message that they were no longer in town. They were no longer answering this phone number. And as I dug and dug and dug, they were no longer around. They had skipped the country. I remember loaning money to a friend as little as 2 years ago of $40,000 on the precept that he would pay me back because he was broken, he was disheveled, his life was over. He only needed this 40,000 to make it through the next 6 months of his business and his marriage, and all of the things and his belongings would be held great to his holdings, right? And everything would be better. And he, as he pontificated and sombered to me and literally almost emotionally wept to me, I broke and gave him the $40,000. And that was 2.5 years ago, and I've not heard from this man since. Have you ever been violated? Has someone ever came in the middle of the night and took your treasure? Have you voluntarily given somebody your heart, your mind, your soul, and they rob you right in front of your face? Have you let yourself in that position and felt that brutal process of being stolen from? I have. And what I want you to understand is we are vulnerable. We are these wired differently people. We are the type of people that let ourselves to be out there for other people. But we also need to understand that what we're doing with our treasures, what we're doing with our stuff, what we're doing and we're storing in our lives are treasures. God has called us not to store these treasures with ourselves, but with him. And what I want you to understand is in Matthew 6:19, he says this: do not store up for yourself treasures here on earth, where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. And the reason I want you to feel this way, and reason I want you to hearken back on one of those bad thoughts, right? What reason I want you to really realize that this is out there, what I really want you to realize and feel that these things happen in life is because they're a clear message for this morning. They're a clear message for you today. It's a clear message for all of us to understand. As much as I'm going to teach you how to grow personally, I'm starting right now. As much as I'm going to teach you how to grow spiritually, I'm starting right now. As much as I'm going to teach you to grow profitably, here's the thing. We have two wills. We have our personal will and we have God's will. We have our personal will and we have God's will. We pray to God in Matthew 6:9, your will be done. We pray to God that his will be done. His will for us is this free will, this idea to have our personal will, our personal growth. Then we have our spiritual growth with him. And then this profitable growth. His will for us is to be profitable, to have fruits. He talks about this all the way back in the Old Testament. But here's at the end of the day, my friends, is that you need to understand that as much as I'm going to teach you how to be profitable in your business, profitable in your life, here on earth, that God's will is for you to be with him. And his strongest commandment for us in many, many ways is in Matthew 6:19, where he says, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy. No. And where thieves break in and steal. Do you remember being devastated? Do you remember being ripped off? Do you remember being violated personally, emotionally? Many of us are being ripped off right now as we sit here right now. We are being ripped off emotionally. We're being ripped off mentally. We're being ripped off spiritually because we're not seeing things for the way they are. Many of us are being ripped off daily, every minute. Many of us have even felt the horrible feeling of your car being broke into, or your house being broke into. Some people, even in the horror of this world, have children stole from them. People have their loved ones murdered, right? There are things in this world that we have to make sure that our bank accounts are not where we're storing our riches. We need to make sure that our treasures, I'm going to teach you now. This is where I really want you to understand that the slopes are slippery, because my job is to build you, to teach you, to love you, to encourage you, to inspire you. Yes. And to help you make more money here on this earth so you can do more things with your family and your friends, right? We're successionaires. We're not millionaires. That's why we talk about it the way we talk about it. God has not called us to be millionaires. God has called us to be successionaires. God has called us to understand that we are going to be ripped off. We are going to be stolen in the middle of the night. Our lives are going to be changed at the blink of an eye. And that's why he's called us not to store our treasures here on earth, where moths and vermin will destroy it, where the thieves in the night can come take your clients, your stereo, your bow and compound weapons. Would you steal your money, your cash, not show up for loans, take advantage of you. This is all the way it is here on earth, but we're not of this earth. We are misfits, my friends. We have two wills that need to be done. We have our will that God has given to us, which is free will. And then we have the will that God has called us to pray to him for on Matthew 6:9. God, please be our Father who art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done. Your will be done. God, we pray for his will to be done here on earth as it on heaven. We're asking him to have his will intercede for us first and foremost. But the oxy here is that he has given us our free will first. And sometimes we don't realize what's going on. That we've trusted too many people here on earth. We put our mind and our treasures here on earth. How many times have you been in the stock market when you wake up and you realize, I remember a time in the stock market when Apple went down 100 and some points and I lost $300,000 or something like that in one night. I mean, like, I felt like I was robbed even there. The world is not made for us to store treasures in. The world is made for us to pass through and to share our goodness, to scatter random kindness acts to others, to help understand that they too can go to heaven with us. I want you to understand that my job is to love you. My job is to protect you. My job is to encourage you, inspire you, right? I'm going to build you personally. I'm going to build you spiritually, and I'm going to build you profitably. But I need you to understand right now that there are two wills in this world. And God has clearly told us in Matthew 6:19, do not store your treasures here on earth where it's to be decayed and ate by vermin or stole by a thief in the night. I wanted you to go back to that moment. I wanted you to know that it's true. I wanted you to know that that's going to happen. Buy my book. Don't buy my book. I don't care. But I want you to understand that there are two wills that need to be done. There is your will and there's God's will. And we need those two to align. I want you to understand these things and how important that is. I want you to know that I wasn't trying to dig into your life and make you sad. I'm actually trying to dig into your life and encourage you. I couldn't stop thinking about how many times I've been ripped off. And I thought, for sure my fans and friends and supporters out there have been through something like this. And for sure, I want you to understand that if you're going to be in business, if you're going to be in the business of life, if you're going to be working on yourself personally, that you're going to be leaving yourself vulnerable. And I don't know how any other way to relate to you than to tell you some of the stories in my life, to tell you that I'm a regular guy. I'm a guy who's done crazy things beyond my understandings, my beliefs. I know some of you are making comments about this, how much money and how it happens. Yeah, it's just the world that I live in. But I've built it from being a little donut maker at the age of 8 years old. And I just want to share with you today, Matthew 6:19 is clear. Do not store up for yourself treasures here on earth where moths and vermin can destroy it and where thieves break in and steal. Basically, guys, I'm trying to explain to you, store up your treasures in heaven. Your acts of kindness, caring for others, your investments into your companies, your employees. You've given us such a great vehicle to work through you and your lives through these entrepreneurial acts that you're trying to do. Many of you are joining my page and entering to win some money, and I hope that you win it. I hope that most of you are using it for good things, and I'm so very proud of you. I will not steal from you, but the world will. We can't leave ourselves at the mercy of this world. We need to focus on storing our treasures in heaven. I want to tell you, it was a great show this morning. I'm working at trying to get your mornings up and out. I want to tell you how proud I am. Get to toddsailor.com. Think about the two wills that need to be done, your will and God's will. God's will is first, but he gave us our will even before his, our free will. And my free will says, I will store my treasures in heaven. I will store my treasures above. I will share my story till the end of time for me. Wired differently is the admission of the gospel. It is my never-ending story, my journey of the mindset, the mission, the movement, and the ministry. So many people watching this morning. God bless all of you. Thank you for encouraging me and loving me. I'm so, so grateful. Do not store up treasures here on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. You guys go get it today. Where are you pointing your treasures? I love you. I love you.